So, welcome to the first episode of the PiP Podcast.
How's it going, guys?
Oh, you go?
It's fine.
Okay.
Just saying hey.
I am here with my friend Khalid.
Hello.
He will be co-hosting the PiP Podcast with me. You can just call me Will. We hope you enjoy the lo-fi music and have a chill time listening to us talk. And if you have anything that you would like to say, look at the chat. I'm always looking at it. Or not, type it in the chat. I'm always looking at it. And I think we'll begin. Is there anything you want to talk about?
So, just introducing myself as well. I'm Khalid, big nerd, pop culture sponge, cinephile. I love D&D, comic books. So, it's probably just going to be that kind of podcast. We'll get a little weird. Some Lovecraftian stuff. Some ghost, paranormal things. You know, see what just happens.
Yes. I am also big into D&D. I really enjoy keeping up with computer parts. So I'm sure tonight we'll touch on the new graphics cards that were announced. On screen, though, you can actually see the DM screen that Khalid made me. It is called Obscura. It is made by wood, and it has a chalkboard and a magnet screen for me to pin up stuff. And all the art was done by Khalid himself. I assume you did it freehand. You didn't use any stencil or anything.
So yes and no. So for the, I think some of the line work, the ribbon work, definitely did some just stenciling for the circles themselves, and to help get that D20 on there to be a little bit more uniform, I guess, symmetrical.
Either way, it still is an excellent piece of art.
I appreciate it.
And he is also planning to make more. So
yes,
maybe in the future we will have those up on the screen. And quite possibly tonight he might hint at some more designs he has in the works.
Yeah, I mean, I always have my sketchbook near me, or at least a notepad, and just writing down whatever I can think of. So don't know how many will come into the physical world, but at least I have a bunch of ideas. No such thing as artist block for me.
On the other hand, I often have artist block. That's one of the things that's like, oh, I want to draw, but I don't know what to draw at all. I kind of want to draw I want to draw people, but I'm terrible at drawing people. I'm better at drawing objects and such.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought about like people watching, like sketching people on the move, or books like that?
I've thought about that, but I feel like I just look like a creep sitting on like a park bench, like watching people. Like, yes, that's a nice subject walking by.
Yeah, I guess as long as you're not like looking like creepy and like hunched over and just like licking your lips, and you probably do just fine.
That is the only thing I would do. I will stare at them intently as I draw.
Yeah. I mean, it's very funny because with my sculpting, it took some getting used to, and there's like there's just a wealth. It's funny like now how YouTube has gone to a point where you can just go on and basically go through a whole class.
Oh yeah.
And just find what you need. But like starting out, it's just like it was almost like you had to, well, I mean, you go to a library and just have to find a person you know, or it was just really weird. But now it's like YouTube, you can literally not become a master, but you can, you know, become pretty amazing at crafts. So that's really interesting jump.
Yeah, the YouTube is actually how I taught myself like everything I know about computers and like phones and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a greater source, I think. It's almost, I could say you could find anything on YouTube, even like how to hack people or knock them off of Wi-Fi and such. But even then, most of those are viruses. So
yeah,
I would say you can learn and get like a moderate amount of skill from just YouTube. But the other part is just you have to practice what you see.
exactly. I don't know if the 10,000 hours thing is still considered a valid theory or philosophy, but well, practice makes perfect, I think.
I know that like I found a bunch of shortcuts through YouTube, like just computer keybinds and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I used my computer, the more I actually found like shortcuts that weren't even written down on the page I was on.
Gotcha.
So that turned out well.
So going on to that one, what are you excited about when it comes to what's rolling down the line in computers?
I think Nvidia made a fantastic leap in their technology, such as like there was the 1080 or the 10 series, which is the 1060, 1070, 1080, and that was a good leap from the 900 series.
Okay.
And then it,
well, in layman's terms, what would that mean? Like, which item are you talking about?
so, for example, I'm pretty sure the 980 from the 900 series, I'm pretty sure 980 to the 1080. The 1080, I think, went over double of the 980's performance. And then you look at from the 1080 to the RTX series, so the 20s, the 20 series, all they added was ray tracing. And while it was a little bit better, it wasn't very significant, I would say.
Okay.
Like if you were upgrading at the time, like yeah, you'd get the RTX like 2080 instead of a 1080. But if you didn't need to upgrade, you didn't.
Cool.
But now that the 30 series is coming out, even the lowest graphics card, so the 3070 that's coming out, that's stronger than the 2080. And usually it's only like one bump lower, so maybe usually only the 30. Oh, it's different every year, so you can't really base it on that. It's really how much they've advanced. I think they're changing to the Ampere architecture, which is how the microchip is built. But I do not want to stay on this topic long.
And I would say just explain to, if anyone wants to know, what ray tracing is.
Ray tracing is tracking where the camera is seeing. And so say there's a mirror. If you're looking at said mirror, you'll be able to, like, light will reflect properly in all these scenarios.
Yeah, so this is talking about dynamic lighting in like video games and so forth.
Yes, so like normally in a video game, and even like in some, you just can't even see yourself in the mirror. If you look in the mirror, you're like a vampire. But for the most part, there's some sort of semblance of real lighting, but it's not super well. So I think in Spider-Man they actually showed it with ray tracing, and you can actually see the different lighting hitting the pools of water on the ground as the sun was moving through the sky. Without ray tracing, that doesn't happen at all.
Nah. So if you want a prettier game that's more realistic, then
it will be more expensive though.
No, of course.
It will, at least it used to be more expensive. Now you can get a low series card that's stronger. You can get a $500 3070 instead of paying $2,000 for a 2080 Ti. That's the kind of leap that they made. They turned a $20,000 expense into a $500 one.
And that's I think that kind of goes into just ideas of video games where you get these new consoles and it's very interesting like how much you paid for it, and then go about 3 years of the console being out and then it just drops significantly, and then you'll see like bootlegs of certain things producing it now. Like, so even with phones, you have a phone that's super expensive, but then 5 years later, and then there's cheap phones that can do what the expensive phone was doing. I mean, it's very, there's some beautiful beauty to it.
Yeah, always sort of, everyone in the technology world is always progressing.
Yeah.
Is there any artist kind of thing that you're doing right now that you would like to talk about?
With me and art, I'm always doing something. So, yeah. Dealing with just my DM screens. So I think, so I built one just to see if I can just finally have a nice wooden one versus, of course, the fold out ones that you usually get, the cardboard ones.
Yeah.
So you've seen that one. Just a basic wooden panels, but it can connect serendipitously to an old antique toolbox that I found at the antique mall, Lou's Antique Mall, not a sponsor. But later on, I decided to build a bigger one for our crossover. So that was 10 players from 2 different D&D games all together, like an Avengers style crossover. But so that
one had a lot of Celtic knots on it, didn't it?
Correct, yeah.
Just carved into it?
Correct, yeah, I carved into it. And it was made out of plywood, so getting deep cuts is really kind of... you can do it with more machining, but I'm just using a Dremel and then some small tooling. But that's just like your 3-panel fold-in, half panels on the back kind of thing. And then Obscura, the one that displays... which is, I just basically got the bug. I had some paneling I wanted to do, didn't turn out the right way. So I was like, you know what? F it, I'll just try to make it this way. But yeah, so now I think it was an itch in the back of my mind. And I think now it's just a bug where I kind of want to just make mini DM screens, and every new thing is I'll think of one thing and then I was like, but what if I do this? And that becomes a whole new DM screen. So that goes back to I don't have artist block.
Yeah, I'm sure, like, thinking of an idea for a DM screen, once you think of one, it sort of steamrolls like, oh, this idea would be good with this one because of so-and-so.
Exactly. It's also the reason why I don't collect things, because I get into like a compulsive kind of wanting to keep trying to make and collect and make different ones. So every variant is always, so it can be like 6 different things, because I was like, well, what if this has red eyes? What if this has blue eyes? And just constant. So I think that's actually going forward, what I did for the DM screens I want to make. I want to make them as different as possible. So there's 2 of them that will have, 3 of them that will have like inset eyeballs in them, but they will operate differently. Their stacks will be different. Like, I kind of want them to jump away from each other aesthetically. And I think that would be kind of cool to do, where I just make it. If you like it and you purchase it, then that's fine. But it's not really, I don't know if I'm going to the realm of commission more than just existing the things anyways.
I have an idea for an initiative on one of these. Would you like to hear it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, sort of a Medusa themed one.
Yep, that's called Gorgon.
Gorgon, yeah. Gorgon. I was trying to think of the word, because I know we've talked about it before. For the initiative, say, you carve the snake heads on the front of the DM screen. Mm-hmm. What if you leave the eyes undone? Like, there's eye sockets. and then you get marbles, like different color marbles to represent like a player or enemy. And the eyes are sort of lined up to where you can stick the marble in the eye.
Okay. And so how was it? So what was it looking like on the DM side? So at the player side of the table, they'll see this snake-headed woman that has the eyes. But what will the DM see? Like when it comes to putting in the initiative token?
I was thinking have the head sort of near the top.
Mm-hmm.
So you could see, because you know, snake eyes are sort of off the sides of the snake a little bit.
Yeah.
Make the marbles big enough to where they will bulge out and get significantly different marbles. So like a pure red one or a pure blue one.
Mm-hmm.
And then have that, just stick them in there. You'll be able to see them from behind the screen.
Of course.
At least the way I'm envisioning it.
That could work. But yeah.
I would also like to note, I have my coffee with me. This is a chill and drink coffee kind of stream. So if anyone in the chat has any questions, feel free to ask. We might provide answers to these.
I am not a coffee drinker.
No, you.
Orange. That's my drink of choice. I still need to look into what happens if you take baking cocoa, mix it with a little bit of water, and then it's basically coffee if you think about it.
That's what I was about to bring up. You were telling me your weird idea about cocoa powder.
Yeah, then you add the creamer, and then it's straight up like coffee. They're both burnt beans, right? Burnt brown beans. So I think with cocoa, though, you shouldn't add as much cocoa than coffee, though. That's the only difference.
I haven't tried like cocoa powder, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah. See, I'll mix it. So on top of everything else of being into the nerds aspects, I'm also into the herbalist and health and supplements and so forth. So that idea. So but protein, I've mixed it with protein. Your powder. So usually I'll use like chocolate powder and then add powdered peanut butter, non-sweetened, and then pure cocoa. It's funny because when I used to work at a supplement store, I would take that one as my nightly protein shake. And as I'm driving back home, I'm all like wired and I'm like trying to figure out why. And it's like the cocoa. It's the cocoa. So I had to, because the other one is what I call swamp water, which is
that
your
just
protein
sounds unappealing. like it sounds so unappealing. Hey, you want some swamp water?
I mean, to be fair, that I think it's more. Yeah, it is unappealing, but it kind of looks unappealing, but it's really, really good tasting. And it's a giant like metabolism boost because it's your vanilla protein powder, greens. I usually just mix it with water. Then you add cayenne pepper. Again, your cocoa, but a little bit less, some cinnamon. And the color is like murky swamp water, but it's really, really, like, it's really good. Like, the name and the ingredients might not really punch home how well it tastes, though, but it's really interesting, especially if it's cold, because you're drinking something like ice cold, but then it starts heating up, and your brain's trying to figure out what the heck just happened. But swamp water, try it. You're welcome. It's really good for you.
I know my friend Matthew sort of like laughed at us, or at me and Trey, when we were trying out the protein powder for the first few times.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, why are you mixing that with water? That's disgusting. Me and Trey are just like, nah, man, it tastes like hot chocolate. Mm-hmm. It's quite literally really good. You could view this as a dessert.
Yeah. Not to go too gym head, but yeah, like if you're mixing, especially like whey isolate, mixing it with water makes it a lot easier to drink, especially if you're still trying to work out. Mixing it with milk is really good if saying it's a nice post-workout, so it sits on your stomach longer. It's almost like a meal, and so your body feeds off of it a little bit longer versus like just drinking it and then just being done or just drinking it while you're working out. But yeah, you can mix it with either one. Just I don't think soy milk is best for guys. Shouldn't be using soy milk. Other than that, yeah.
What's the difference in soy milk?
So soy milk, and granted, there's like all these like back and forth on is it not, but soy milk has the tendency, or soybeans in general has the tendency of like raising estrogen in men, and that's just kind of not what a guy wants for the most part. So things like cashew milk, almond milk, rice milk usually are better options for a guy or for a person who's suffering from like lactose intolerance or being a vegan, not suffering from being a vegan, but just being a vegan. That would be a good choice.
I personally enjoy my meat very much. I came out wrong, but you understand.
I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, I really like trying like the raw vegan diet. So a lot of my greens will be raw, like uncooked from everything. Well, I mean, except for potatoes and so forth, but most of it will just be uncooked. Even uncooked corn is really good. But yeah, I'm a bit of an omnivore who happens to favor I was about to say cannibalism. Carnivore. No when to go here. But yeah, so because that's the thing, like a few of my buddies they'll make the jokes like, oh, a vegan's really excited to tell you that they're vegan and so forth, but there's some really cool things from it. I know guys and girls have gone vegan and it's just like it helped them out a bunch, like gastrointestinal issues and even sleep. So there's some benefits to it, but again, kind of the two that their own.
I think a lot of people that go vegan, I think they do live healthier lives than like people who aren't. But at the same time, it's more or less like what you enjoy.
Exactly.
So there are some people like me. It's like to some extent I understand that being a vegan could help me out in sort of a nutritional standpoint. But man, I love hamburgers.
Yeah. I would have to say hamburger is the best go-to. Like a good pizza, yes, but a hamburger is always a good go-to. I'm trying to capture that white well of making a great black bean burger.
What?
But I don't like a black bean burger. So it's avocado, black beans, and mushroom. You can use potatoes. And so there's ways to make it so it's a nice firm burger, but I'm kind of being pig-headed, maybe probably. I don't know. I want to try to figure it out how to make it myself versus like looking online, just kitchen chemistry. Like, oh, well, this makes it perfect for me, possible. Oatmeal supposedly is a good one to help out. Bananas, people have bananas. I don't know. Like, don't sleep on bananas. They're kind of a magical fruit.
I like bananas, but only on occasion. Like, okay, for example, I had a banana the other day, and my aunt was like, I have never seen you eat a banana in your life. I did not even know you liked bananas. And I was like, bro, it's just a banana. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, and I'll have to say for anyone we're still on the like working out, but hey, why not? Nerds are now changing how they are. A lot more people come out being nerds, but if you're trying to lose weight, steer clear or be weary of bananas. So if you're like using the bananas like a quick sugar spike and you're going to be hitting like doing like a CrossFit or Insanity or like power like burst like lifting, then eat a banana because there's sugar spike. But a banana has the same amount of sugar as a Snickers bar in some aspects. So if you're trying to cut weight, it's not really good to eat a banana if you're not going to be burning those calories and it's using up that sugar, I should say. But a lot of people go, oh, I want a banana because I'm losing weight. It's like, well, it's a trap because your body doesn't go, well, this is this sugar. It's going to go, hey, these are carbs that I can use now. Give me that sugar. We're not doing anything but sitting. Cool. Store it. and sugar stores in the fat. So,
Well, here, let me ask you this, because you did used to be or work at a supplement place before we changed topics.
cool, man.
Do you think it is worse to drink diet soda than versus like a regular soda?
That one. So, I mean, I think diet sodas don't taste anything like a regular soda. Like you have like the Dr. Pepper campaign. It tastes just the same. It doesn't. And again, that's another one, like artificial sweeteners. Everyone keeps talking about how they're not bad for you. They are bad for you. So, I mean, it's a better step. Just straight up like cane sugar or just processed sugar or even high fructose corn syrup. Like high fructose corn syrup is terrible. So I would say a diet soda is better. It's just the same concept where if you're starting to, so if you're quitting sodas cold turkey, you're just going to get to the gym, you're hitting those strides, but then you start getting like the craving for soda, in which I feel like a flavored like sparkling water can help like satiate that. But if you just like, I know I need this diet or I need a Coca-Cola, then yeah, Diet Coke will help out with that. It's not like you're destroying like a whole box a day of Diet Cokes, because then again you're just like, what's the point of it? But yeah, but definitely I think like because even fruit juice is another pitfall, because they're like, okay, well it's a fruit, so I'm going to drink some orange juice, apple juice, whatever. But then you look at the sugar content, and again, it goes, this is 53 grams of sugar per serving. It's like, well, then, you know what I mean? It doesn't, your body go, well, this is orange and this is Dr. Pepper. It just goes, that's sugar. We can use it. We can't, then we'll store it. So, I mean, I think, because I don't really drink sodas that often, but there have been times where I was just like, I kind of have that just like, that want for just like something like fruity or flavored, and then just the sparkling aspect, the carbonation, and then just find myself a mineral, like some kind of sparkling water, and be good to go.
I like sparkling water. A few years ago when I did lose a lot of weight, the first thing I did was get like a milk jug, and every day I would drink a gallon of water.
Yeah.
I would fill it up. And I remember like my mom being like, what are you doing with that jug? I'm like, this is my drinking jug, bro. This is how I get my... basically, I kept it downstairs with me. That way I didn't need to go to the kitchen. It kept me from going to the kitchen. Because if I went there, then it's like the soda's right there. Yeah. I want a soda.
Yeah. I don't know. I think definitely hydrate, if that's all important.
This is true. Would you like to move on to another topic?
Yeah, go
on. D&D topic. How do you okay. Recent campaign. Well, here, a little backstory. Me and Khaled both run D&D games, but I am also a player in Khaled's game. So we often talk to each other about what we're planning in general, or what happened. He doesn't tell me any spoilers, but he's not playing in my game, so I can come to him for help. But what is your all-time favorite moment out of any D&D, like game you've played or DMs?
Ooh, that is a hard one. All-time moment playing. I'll break it down
before you start. And if the chat has played D&D and would like to type their favorite moment of their games, the chat pops up on the screen, so you can be telling it to the other people in chat, even if they're not directly looking at the chat box. All right, go on. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine. No. So my favorite moment, I'll break it up into like player and DM. So my favorite moment, I would have to say somewhere around my best friend was running a game, and the cool thing is that so he's a Mormon, and so he has like the elders, missionaries will come over. They'll have like a game day they can play.
Yeah.
So I get off work and I'm working at Target, definitely not a sponsor. At the time, finally get off late and I come over and they're in the middle of a game and it's carnage everywhere. And his mom is also playing. His mom's super awesome, gamer nerd, just like all of us. So she's wondering why my character hasn't just stepped in to help out. And then you have to think about this. I just walk into carnage where there's dead rats everywhere. Some lady is screaming, "Kill it!" And there's like shooting stuff inside of a building, trying to stop what is a threat to them. But to me, it's just like, I'm just a passerby. Like, no, these people are crazy. So yeah, so I mean that one, and just I think most of the time I would say that it's just playing the character, and then just there are always three moments: sliding on ice when everyone's failed, and taking bites out of enemies or cutting enemies in half, just like crits and so forth. Because this was 3.5, I do believe, or 4. I just know that I think 4 did minion rules. So do you know what minion rules are?
I don't, but just so you know, your friend is in the chat and he can hear you. He said he was just about to say that one.
Yeah.
And he said it was fourth edition.
Perfect. So yeah, so 4th edition had minion rules. So what that means is that they all have 1 hit point. So they're surrounded by the big bad, and so it gives the players, the characters, more of like a umph to them. He either can mow down enemies before they get to this hard fight kind of thing. It's a cool rule. I still secretly will implement it depending on the situation. The players in my game now, I think they're tough enough that I don't really need to do that. I think most times, if anything has 10 or less hit points, they seem to be minion.
Yeah, I would say that we crush it.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
Lightning breath.
But I mean, really just those 3 of those games, same character and then same DM. So it's really just the nonsense that ensued from it. And I mean those have within stories and things in themselves. Now as a DM, I think that probably a year ago, I can go, well, this is definitively my favorite story. But it's now just everyone, because I can't say I have a favorite player or player character to watch or interact with. Everyone has their own things. Just any situation where Nazir does have to use lightning breath is always kind of a funny thing.
I feel like everyone laughs that off, and I'm just like, no, it's a threat. Come on now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different stuff, going back to because I love using musical cues for certain things, and so look up Game of Thrones, Light of the Seven. Big spoiler alert, deals with Cersei Lannister and the Sparrow and Green Fire. Let's leave it there. If you haven't seen Game of Thrones, that episode, or I don't know what you're doing, just don't watch the last season. Come at me. But so yeah, playing Live the Seven, and introducing an NPC that everyone starts to love and so forth, and then the NPC skewers himself on a character's sword, and getting an actual visceral reaction. One of the players, him actually swearing because the moment was like, what just happened? And talked to our guest player at the time, Mikey, and he was legitimately saying, I was playing it cool, but in that moment though, in my brain I was just like, oh crap, man, oh man, what we do? It's so that kind of thing. So any moment where the players have a reaction where it steps outside of just being their player and just becomes a part of the character is my favorite moments. And again, There's too many. Yeah, it just keeps on becoming just more and more catalogs where I have to go, oh my gosh, that's why I love listening to the previous sessions, because there are moments I'm like laughing about for an hour because of just how silly or how amazing it turned out in comparison. And sometimes it's not even me being the DM doing it, it's literally the players did it, and now I get to just sit back and just listen. Listen to what they do, and then just have to put my little input in as needed. But yeah, no, so I think that's a really cheap answer, but yeah, it's like like I don't really have like, oh, this one. It's like, no, there's so many goofy ones, some involving NPCs, and then some just, again, interactions between the others.
All right, so if you don't mind, I want to answer the same question.
Yeah, no, please do.
I'm gonna start with the player, because I think the DM one might get one of my players' reactions in the chat. So, just so you know, Josh is in the chat right now.
What up, boyo?
What up, boyo? So, I think as a player, one of my favorite moments was like a few sessions after Obelisk and Fior, so Cody and Kip, teamed up and defeated the ogre.
Yes.
And they were like, yeah, we're really cool. Insert bad A.
Yeah. It was super anime. Like, that was one thing. It was anime.
Like, they literally unloaded everything that they had into that to kill him. And then you fast forward like a few sessions, we're playing at a local game store as our venue, and I just say I'm going to attack. How many times? It was 5 times.
Yep. You did all 5 attacks.
Yeah, I hit all 5 attacks. I down an ogre like by myself, and everyone just looks at me, and they're like, "You're a part of A team now." So, college session, the players have split ourselves up into A team and B team. And sadly, at the moment, one of the players on A team is, we'll just say MIA for, possibly forever. But we got B team, and they're good, but they haven't had their epic moment yet, I would say. I think when they have an epic moment, that they'll be on A team. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I will have to say that even what you would say A team, there are some like cool points and so forth. B team knows who they are. Again, technically, I don't prescribe to what they are. That's the players want to call themselves A team, B team. They're technically all the same team, but there have been character moments where it's like, okay, all right.
Yeah, the A team, B team is completely a player thing.
Yeah. All of my players are A's to me.
So, I think some of my favorite moments have to do with a specific character. Like, as a DM, just because of how I know I can get reactions out of him. And yes, we're talking about Josh, who's in the chat. I really enjoy making some of the items that he gets. I really try to put a lot of thought into those items. And just so you know, Josh, you're not getting any hints that his current item is really hard. It's quite literally a puzzle in itself. And if he thinks he's going to get any more hints for it, he's wrong. But that's not the best moment. I think the best moment was I made a temple for Tempest and other gods in general. But the main thing is that each room of this temple had a puzzle that went with it. And this is undisclosed information I don't think I've even told Khalid, but the very first room was a Tiamat room, and I 100% did not come up with an actual puzzle for that. I made a riddle, and I read the riddle out, and I let them do whatever they thought would be the answer. And so they sat in there for a good, 10 to 30 minutes, wondering how to go, and then one of the players goes, I'm just going to walk out. Because one part of the riddle said, let me be, or whatever. And that was the perfect way to end that.
Wasn't it Trey? Trey figured it out?
Yeah, Trey's character just left. Yeah. He was like, I'm just going to leave. And that was the answer.
What was the, where's that saying that what you need to do is go to a dollar store and you find a puzzle book for 5-year-olds and then reskin it, and then that's the puzzle for a Dungeons and Dragons game. But I don't know. I've made some weird puzzles and they've come all right. I don't know. I think so. Now, going to D&D, but taking a few steps back through the years. So, what got you into D&D? When did you start playing it? What got you into D&D?
I tried to turn off my phone notifications, but they won't turn off. I would say there was a old sort of animation that would get me into it. It was called, I think it was just called Forgotten Realms instead of Unforgotten Realms. And the whole animation was done by a person named Rurikar, but otherwise he's known as a Bruce Willikers or Rob nowadays. Okay. I found him rather recently. I would say in the past couple of years I found him again just because I recognized his voice. And then I confirmed it when he said I used to do an animation about D&D. And the animation, it had D&D aspects, but it didn't have any real rules. It was basically a nerdy friend that played D&D alone, just by himself. And then the other guy's the internet's out, or something along those lines, no one's around. How do you play this stupid game? And it just starts off with, I want to be a lumberjack. And it's that's not a class. And then he takes the dude's book and he writes lumberjack as a class. And he's it's in the book now. And then after that sort of set up the search engine, I guess, in a way, and it linked me to Dungeons and Dragons Online. And then the community around that was all nice. They would buy random people. I would join their party to go to a dungeon, and then they would just buy a pass for me to do the dungeon with them if it was a DLC content thing.
Okay.
And so after that, it was sort of yes, I would like to play D&D more.
That is an angry puppy dog.
Yes, that is why I'm muting.
That's fine. And then it's been history since. When was your first physical sitting down with dice game?
Monopoly.
No, silly. Dungeons and Dragons. What was your first sitting down at the table with dice in Dungeons and Dragons or TTRPG?
Well, here, let's start with yours, and then I will finish up the question.
Okay. All right. So I'll play the whole thing, I guess. So what got me into Dungeons and Dragons, I think there's such a slew of different fantasies and movies, genre, just books and everything else that got me just loving it. But it was Heroes Quest, old Milton Bradley game that had Game Workshop worked with them to make it. So that got me just like, oh my gosh, things can be miniatures. They're miniatures fantasy things. And so, I mean, you go back, I'm old school. So there's like Willow and Thundercats and Thundera. You know what I mean? There's so many different, I wrote a list before. Maybe one day I'll just read off the list of what inspired me or just basically primed me to love D&D. But Legend, I have to mention Legend. Tom Cruise movie. Tim Curry is the Prince of Darkness. Such a good movie. But yeah, so
the dogs have settled down, by the way.
You should use the little YouTube thing to make them stop barking. But yeah, so fast forward probably like the early 90s, 94, 95. A guy brings a starter set, so I play a cleric. There's like the battle mat, the what's it called? Was it Midnight Syndicate? They're a big D&D music maker, like that's their kind of claim to fame, is that they do D&D music. Midnight Syndicate, really good stuff. Their Halloween stuff is actually pretty good too. Here, October is coming upon us fast. So yeah, playing that. But yeah, it's Hero Quest. There's miniatures, and that got me into just like, okay, well, the fantasy plus miniatures, then the D&D set, and so forth. It's funny because my best friend, we actually met. So we were in the same school. We had like a typing class, which was terror, but our time off, I'm drawing some anime, and he looks over and goes, "Hey, you like anime?" And I'm just like, "Wait, you know what anime is?" He's like, "Yeah." So we just talk about anime for a while, and then that same day, I do believe, we then have to go through. We have to go to gym, and I think I don't have the right boots, and I don't think he has the right shoes either. Or I have boots on, he has shoes, so we don't have like gym clothes, basically.
Yeah.
So we're just sitting out, and then like I pull out the dwarf from a Hero Quest game, and he looks over and he's like, "That reminds me of Dungeons and Dragons." I was like, "Wait, you know what Dungeons and Dragons is?" And then things like, "Yeah, I think we're best friends." I think we just became best friends, and yeah, that's true. We're still best friends. He's my best friend. But yeah. So, but then been playing it. Took a break off, and something that really makes me want to kick myself is that for some strange reason, when I was in the military, I might understand New Mexico. I didn't play D&D in New Mexico. The shop was weird. Some of the people, well, I'm friends with them now. Some of the people were just kind of like, I don't know.
Off-putting in a way.
I mean, off-putting, yes, but just not the same, like, no, wouldn't mesh well kind of thing. They weren't terrible. They just didn't mesh well in that. Like, if we go to clubs and bars, perfect. But to play Dungeons and Dragons, that's not really their thing. But then when I went to England, I had my own house in a village, and I just never played D&D. Like, didn't even cross my mind, unless I found like an old monster manual. And I'm like, why would I not play Dungeons and Dragons where there's literal castles? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I did some traveling, but at the same time, it was just like, why didn't I do more traveling around castles and get inspired for it? Yeah, it just, and then like I even asked some of the guys later, I was like, "Hey, I was playing D&D." It's like, "Why didn't you ever play?" I'm like, don't tell me that. Don't you dare. Don't you dare tell me you would play, but I don't know. But yeah, but then picking it back up, I would have to say Buddy Cody really wanted to play it, and I was like, well, 5th edition is out. I might look into it, and the bug is back. Like any any hobby. But yeah, good old D&D.
So the original question is what again?
When was the first time you sat down, like at the table, to play Dungeons and Dragons?
Like you said, with dice. I
did
some
say
dice in Monopoly.
I was like, I played Yahtzee. No, we're not playing much D&D.
Imagine Yahtzee D&D.
That'd be kind of fun, but kind of weird. You know, I don't really know the whole rules of Yahtzee. I used to when I was playing in like school, but I don't remember Yahtzee. So sorry, I remember Bubble and the something else, the blue, the little pegs, but I don't remember Yahtzee or Trouble, like how it's actually played.
I know how to play Trouble, but back to the thing. The first time I sat down and played D&D,
Yeah.
even though it was like for a session, because I'm pretty sure I annoyed everyone, was when I was younger. I was probably like in 9th grade, and I played at the local card store that is no longer open, but I will say their name because YOLO. Red Battle Games. I played in their back room with a group of people, and I tried to have a kobold as a pet, and everyone was getting annoyed because I was supposed to kill the kobold, but I wanted it as a pet.
So I've heard that that the Red Battle RPG sessions, the Weird West was the best.
Really?
Can anyone in chat confirm that the Weird West is the best game? I don't know.
I feel like you're trying to talk to Robert. I will not allow this. Keep that out of here.
It's a point of rage for him. But yeah. Let me see. And now, is there anything D&D related that you're excited about?
I'm excited to see where my current session is going to go. There was a giant character development, and there's still more to it. I'm not going to give too much away. There's still more to it. That it's not like cut and dry, that's the end. So I hope they don't think that. In general, D&D, not related to like my game, I'm excited for Tasha's Hideous Laughter, or the Tasha's Cauldron book coming out.
Yes, absolutely.
Very excited for that, because that'll add more spells, possibly items and such. In terms of your game, I'm just excited to play it every week.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but on Tasha, man, that one, that seems like a really wonderful like supplement, and it's always funny like looking through chats and people like yelling at Dungeons or D&D when they bring out something and they're like, hey, this is new, and then you have the almost ingrate where they're like, where's this? But one thing that kept popping up was like more spell options, character classes, and so forth. Well, I love Zenithars. I think Tasha's Cauldron will be very interesting addition to see where that goes. Because what it also does is it's not scraping away, but it's also mixing in a lot of those UAs, which means that a lot of the UA, that's Unearthed Arcana, for the initiated. But it makes a lot of those now classes for people to play, or subclasses rather. And so you have to kind of look
just to
towards
go like define Unearthed Arcana for people that watch this on YouTube when it goes up. Unearthed Arcana is like a beta testing. It's where they play test and make changes before it's actually released, so they can get feedback before it becomes like an official part of the game. But yeah, am I correct on that?
No, boom, perfect. Now some like there are some DMs that don't allow it. Like I think if you play like Adventures League, they won't allow it to be at their table, or majority won't. Just because it makes sense, because it kind of just, because sometimes there's a balance issue. So they're like, hey, let's not have this this overpowered barbarian class that just doesn't make sense, and then it's kind of vindicated when they scrap that class. It's like, see, it was terrible. But what a lot of people are saying now is that it's safe to say if it was in our Unearthed Arcana and it's now, if it's not make it over to Tasha's, then consider it obsolete. That means it's good chance it's not out until they have a new set of Unearths coming out, basically.
But what about Nazir's Dragon Wings? Is that still a possibility?
Yeah, because we've talked about it.
Okay. You do know why I didn't get the Dragon Wings, right? By the way, Cody says hello from the chat.
How's it going, my boy? But yeah, yeah. We've talked about it. This reason why. Um,
I can't fly because of my cool Doulahan armor, which makes me sad. But you know, I get a fast horse, and that makes up for it.
keep talking about that horse.
That one was for Cody.
Okay.
Because he brought it up.
No. It's like I mean the horse is cool, but I not feeling almost guilty of the concept was like it's just an aesthetic and a speed boost. And you're just like, man, look at my horse. My horse is amazing. It's like I mean, okay.
But you can give it a lick.
You can no. There's a guy that eats horse, but that's a whole nother topic, I guess. We'll talk about. But yeah, and how do you feel about the Rime of the Ice Maiden, or Window?
I don't know much about the Ice Maiden book coming out. Usually, if it's adventure books, like recently, I've been getting the actual adventure books solely because I want the setting information and maybe the magic items details without having to go search for them.
Exactly, yeah.
The actual adventure part is sort of like, while it'd be cool to run it, it's just not me, or not for me at this point.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
That's why I'm so excited about the Tasha book.
Yeah. I think the most important thing to take away from it is those ice chewingas. There's snow chewingas.
Oh my god. You didn't tell me this.
So let's get nerdy now. So what a chewinga is, think somewhere between, it can be anywhere from like 3 inches to 6 inches, but it's just a little skinny humanoid. Their skin is charcoal black, just pure black, and they have these like white stripes or bands around them, and they have these little masks on their faces. Their masks look just like dots. There's dots on their mask and so forth. They have like stringy ethereal hair, and they're elementals of earth, not just like or sorry, I should say nature. So they're not just like rock earth. Yes, I'm fighting really hard to go into the airbender stuff. So they're just across the board general nature elementals, and so they can merge into grass and rocks and stones, and they're really sweet, and they give you trinkets and blessings if they like you. Think the Kodomo from Princess Mononoke, like that kind of feeling of how they are. The stack's different, same kind of head mask thing if you think about it, but then mixed with a little bit of like the soot spirits from like Spirited Away and Kiki's Delivery Service,
or kind of like the Karoks from Zelda.
Yes, that's another one.
Because they just have leaves on their face.
Yes. And their prize is what, golden poop you get? That their blessing? You get like the golden poop, I think. You have to do like a bunch of like missions or something, or finding them. You get like a golden poop. Breath of the Wild.
Oh yeah. It's a seed. It's a Karok seed, I think.
Oh, okay.
And then you can feed this or give the seed to a man with a leaf umbrella, and he'll up your inventory or something else.
Okay.
So Robert asked, what does PiP stand for? Are we actually going to tell him, or are we going to keep it a secret?
I think we'll hold off from telling him. So muhaha, nanny boo boo. It's not Fallout, so that's at least one thing down.
Yeah, it's not for Pip Boy or anything like that.
So that's what snow chewinga is. That snow chewinga, they look like they're wearing like little furs, and I think they're aesthetically different. I think they have blue skin, and they're like little yetis or little snow spirits, and they just run around throwing snowballs. I don't know. Cause did you ever catch the live show they did? So they had like was it the Game of Thrones cast and a bunch of comedians for their like Red Nose Day?
I did not, like the D&D day.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I saw it, but I didn't actually watch it. I was just like, oh, that's cool. I didn't tune in.
So again, it's been out for a while, but spoilers for the Cast of Thrones. Most of those players get killed off by Chewingas throwing snowballs. I don't know.
What? That's interesting, but that just sounds weird.
It just happened that way. And so I guess we can jump to phase 2. Did you have anything else to talk about with the D&D?
Not anything that we can't touch on another time.
Okay. So let's do this thing. So what I always like to do is just a little segment. What's called "What are you watching? What are you playing? Reading, listening to." So
before we get into the segment, I would just like to say, if the people in the chat are enjoying this podcast, please hit the follow button, because we will be doing it every Tuesday, and we will be trying to have a guest every other Friday. So starting next Friday, not the Friday of this week, but next Friday, we will be trying to get a guest. And that's all I have to say. So,
So what you watching, what you playing, reading, listening to?
I'm thinking about going back and reading the last book in the second part of the Percy Jackson series. I just remembered that I never read the last book in the second part. So there's 2 parts. There's like the first part that is full on Greek mythology in Percy Jackson. The second part deals with Roman and Greek mythology, and it has like a different set of cast people, or like protagonists. In again, like it has the older ones too, but there's like a plot twist kind of thing. As for games, I am currently playing Among Us. Just a bunch of different multiplayer games. We started playing Among Us because the whole hype train hit. I've been playing Siege because the new season started, so we have the Sam Fisher guy out. Also some reworks. So you saw Sam Fisher?
Yeah, I saw that.
His gadget actually can shoot through reinforced walls.
Holy
It's
crap.
a camera, and it can shoot lasers. It's pretty OP, actually.
It is Sam Fisher, though, so I mean...
Yes, he is Sam Fisher. I'm okay with this. Looking forward to the Montaigne rework, to where he will be a hard breacher. Can't wait to see someone like bust through a reinforced wall as Montaigne and scare everyone in that room. Because you just don't expect this big dude with a shield to walk through an exploded like wall. It's great, because if he's a hard breacher, that means he can bust through any wall, even if it's reinforced.
Yeah, any obstacle, yeah.
Watching, I think me and you both are watching Lovecraft Country right now.
Absolutely. That, yeah.
Let's touch on that after you say like what you're doing.
Okay.
Because I feel like we can jump into a rabbit hole with that.
Oh, absolutely. So playing right now, nothing on the video game aspect. I am trying to rediscover Be Zombied, but see, that right there is almost crack to me, I think. Like I'll play it and then I'm just obsessively playing it. So I don't know. But I do whip out the PlayStation 2 every once in a while. So it's going to be Snake Eater or Fatal Frame 2. Like, I love them. Or even Kagero Deception 2. Like, that's a PS1 game and still a phenomenal, still a great game. I really wish they would stay that path, but that's what Townco does, is go off the rails. Reading, listening is kind of a cheat. Just because with it, I will do audiobooks. So I'm getting back into the Witcher series. So that one's kind of big because I think each book is about 10 hours. There's 5 books on it. But I've now doing it where if I'm doing art or some kind of thing where I'm just working, then I can just listen to it. And that makes it a lot better than just sitting and reading for me.
Multitasking.
Yeah, that's how I like. Pet Cemetery is one of the books. Like I was like, I want to read, but I just couldn't get down into doing it. So I was just like, let's find an audiobook. Let's do that, and it was really well done. It's super creepy. One that I will suggest, and I always suggest to people, I think they should always listen to. If they can't do the reading, but audiobook is Roadside Picnic. It's done. I can't think of the guy's name. He's a phenomenal. His name is Robert. I can't think of his last name. He has a really heavy New York accent. Robert, whatever. I think he's the grandfather from Last Man Standing, Tim Allen show. If you look that up, then there you go.
Okay.
But Roadside Picnic is basically the concept of just like how people will go and pull off the side of the road to have their picnics. Well, it's not as now prevalent, but still. Yeah. And they leave trash behind and they leave different things. What happens to the animals that find this trash? So Roadside Picnic is that same concept, but it's like, what if aliens come to the Earth and they had basically what could have been a picnic and they leave stuff behind? Problematically, they mess things up. But people go and try to find these things called stalkers. They could try to find these items and see what they can do with them. They're really coveted. And guaranteed the items aren't what they are to the aliens, but to humans, they do things like extend their lives, or even there's a fable of granting wishes. And it's just this concept that it's not even just trash, but it's also effects, weird invisible things, and your life is in danger if you're a stalker. And it follows a guy and just his chronicles through it. So Roadside Picnic, it's a phenomenal like a read, but it's a wonderful like listen. Metro, I think Metro is actually based off of it. The game Stalker,
yeah,
a lot of that stuff is based off of it.
That's what I was actually going to say. Josh said in the chat that the Stalker series of games is based on it.
Yep. And I mean, there's times where like it's again just how it's narrated. It's kind of funny because this guy's supposed to be Russian, but the actor talking to him has like this heavy New York accent, and he's like, I'm 22 years old. And he's like, I know for a fact you're about 50, 60. So, but you just like, you lose track of that and you just kind of get enthralled into the story. People want to know, see if you can find it on YouTube. It's everywhere. But it's a really, really, really good thing. But yeah, so Lovecraft Country.
Yes. I would also like to say I did go back and watch the first episode. There was a mix up with where we were watching it at. I actually watched the last episode first, and I just accepted it as being that because I knew it was going to be weird. And then as I started watching what I thought was the second episode, but was actually the fourth out right now, I messaged Colin. I'm like, so is this correct? Because they're giving me a previously on screen, and I don't remember any of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I won't go into like spoilers because I want just people just to go in, but no, because see, I binged the episode 1 through 5 already. So
I think minor spoilers of episode 1 is okay. Not anything that would plot the spoiling, but maybe like a funny, like moments that caught you off guard or something.
Well, I mean, not even that. I mean, because I can't even watch trailers anymore because if I watch a trailer, I can literally break down a whole movie. Like, I've watched a movie or trailer, and then I went, "Oh, this is what happens," and then be correct. And so, like, even I think Cinema Sins, I've done it where it was just the opening of Cinema Sins of a movie. I'm like, "Oh, this is what happens in this mystery movie." That's a famous murder mystery movie. And I'm like, oh, this is what happens. Wow. I figured that out without. So, I mean, like, I will say, like, so with me, just going with, so episode 1 is just holy crap, like that.
Yeah.
Like that is the best way to describe it. Where it's just like, I mean, so looking at it as hitting the points of like acted, directed, and then just like cinematography, dope. It's just it's ridiculous. It's really really well done. And
I like the time period it's set in. Like I think
yes.
they represent it well.
Hmm.
Without like everything around like the cars and everything.
Yes, yes. It's a like period pieces can get me, and science fiction or eldritch horror or fantasy like blends. I'm all in, and this it does it. Um, but one thing that I also love is that the end song is Sinnerman, from Nina Simone, and it's one of my favorite songs. And just the concepts of her and what Billie Holiday, like the music that they would sing, I couldn't think of another song that like. So the minute I start hearing the piano, I'm like, is this what I think it is? And yeah, Sinnerman is just a phenomenal song. Like it's one of those songs that's like any iteration of it, I'm gonna love it, unless someone just goes really just ridiculous with it. Um, but yeah, so I was like, the minute it was like Sinnerman playing, I was like, there should have been no other song to it. But thinking of the music, how do you feel about the like anachronism of some of the music? Like it's modern music playing sometimes.
I think that some of like I like the modern music because I think that they're also targeting an audience that might not know all of the older music, so it could convey like some sort of emotion or what could be going on to like a newer or maybe even like a younger audience.
Okay.
So I'm okay with it. It doesn't break any sort of immersion for me. I do want to state there was like one moment where I was like, where is this going to go? It was just them getting stopped in the woods by a cop.
Yeah.
I was like, what does he mean? What is he talking about?
Oh yeah. No, you're talking about just ideas of sundown, like a sundown city. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but yeah, that's a legitimate thing.
Like legit. I was like, what is he talking about? And then they start to drive, and I'm like, oh my god, what is gonna go on right here?
I mean, that's one thing to contribute to the concepts of like, especially like how Jordan Peele does when it comes to like suspense and so forth.
Yeah.
That tension, he does a really good job at just that pulling tension. And sometimes not even if there's a stake to it, it's just that creeping tension, like a H.P. Lovecraft book read. And then he also will kind of release that rubber band in a way. It's not release it. So he has it pulled taut, and every once in a while he will like kind of give it a lax with humor and levity.
Yeah.
Before just completely stretching it back out. And though that rubber band has ended up being like your heartstrings, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was, because it was funny because I think Josh was like, have you heard about it? And I was like, no. And then my sister at like the same day was like, oh no, have you heard about it? And so she's really good at catching things before it becomes the Xenogeist. Like she's just kind of like, oh, have you heard of this? And so start talking about Lovecraft Country, and then I was like, well, yeah, I heard, but I haven't watched into it. So I just kind of waited, and I was going to just try to binge it when it ended. I think the season ended, episode 10, October 10th. I was like, I can't wait that long.
Yeah.
So I was like, 5 episodes is perfect. I catch half, and then the rest half I can do that.
I think I like the way I saw it is I saw the picture of it a couple of times, and then of course me and you talked about it just like briefly, as in like you brought it up, and then I saw a YouTube trailer and I was like, oh, it's sold. I need to watch this.
Yes, I think. Yeah, it's definitely a good watch. I will say that it's very funny that this was the next step, just because with HBO when they did Watchmen, um, they showed the Tulsa situation. And a lot of people were like, "What the crap? That's real?" It's like, yeah, that happened. So I think there is some interesting like enlightenment weaved within Lovecraft's country. Those who are fans of Lovecraft know how problematic sometimes his writing is. Even though I do enjoy Lovecraft's work. Just sometimes like there's things that he's written that has inspired other artists that I follow and so forth. Mike Mignola, creative like Hellboy and Incredible Screw-On Head, like that. He's inspired by Lovecraftian lore. Then Guillermo del Toro, guy who directed Hellboy movies, he's heavily inspired by it. He wants to do a movie, but I don't know if Guillermo del Toro is ever going to come out with anything.
I think Robert's trying to set you up. He's asking what the cat's name was.
No. It's no. I do actually love this thing. So in Rats in the Wall, H.P. Lovecraft story, Rats in the Wall, again, really creepy. So a gentleman moves from America back to England, his family inheritance home, a castle. So he's renovating it, and so he has cats, but his favorite cat is his favorite. It's basically the name of the cat was inspired by his favorite cousin, basically.
Yeah.
He loved his cousin. His cousin was wonderful and awesome. But his cousin left the family to go to Louisiana to deal with black magic and voodoo and just immerse himself in like the Creole and people and language and everything. So in honor of his cousin, he named this black cat N-word man, spelled out. This is a cousin that he loves. He loves this cousin. So he names him a derogatory term, which is a very funny thing. And so some people get upset when it gets changed, but it just didn't make sense. It was just like, well, why didn't you name the cat Voodoo? Like I think it's the BBC radio drama. They named the cat Voodoo. A black cat, his cousin he loved goes to learn voodoo. Boom. Some name the cat Blackie or Blackman sometimes. But yeah, it was just a weird thing about what H.P. Lovecraft loves to just go boom. But I feel like he just tried to placate to people versus, I don't know, because you have people like Edgar Allan Poe, and while there's a really weird story we might talk about, I think it's Until There's Nothing Left. I have to look at it, but it's about an old soldier, and he does use the slur, but it's almost as if it's in juxtaposition to it, because everyone like it's kind of a comedy. It's a Edgar Allan Poe story. Until There's Nothing Left, or There Was Nothing Left, are all used up, I think it is. And so the guy's trying to find this amazing general or war hero, and everyone just keeps saying his name, like, oh, you mean this person? He's amazing. He's a great man. And everyone just keeps saying it over and over again to the character. And he's like, okay, but where can I find him? And then finding the character, and he basically doesn't live up to his station in some aspects, basically his like how people have painted him. And so he's kind of just yelling at his servants, and he uses it, and it's kind of almost like that thing where he's just like, he's kind of a terrible person. At the same time, what kind of man is he? I don't know, but I guess I can go into detail of him later, closer to the October time, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any other topics you want to touch on before we end? Because we're in the last 10 minutes.
Was there anything from the chat that they had wanted to know, or?
That's a good question. Does anyone in the chat have any questions? Any topics they want us to talk about? It takes a second for the stream to catch up. I think there's like technical terms, there's a 30-second delay between what we say and what they see. Robert said favorite comic book character. And then Josh also asked how did we meet?
All right, so favorite comic book character. I'm actually a Batman fan, but Spider-Man will always be like my go-to. That's one of the first, like, my dad got me to start reading with Spider-Man. I still like him. He's just, I don't know. There's something just crazy about Spider-Man where it's just like, he's just so relatable and identifiable in its own right. Even if like other countries like color swap him.
Yeah.
I can go into the details, but for Robert, I'm gonna tell him it's Squirrel Girl because he loves Squirrel Girl. Isn't that right? Since there's a delay, I'll leave that time bombed.
I think I also enjoy Spider-Man. He goes, how dare you? I also enjoy Spider-Man, but I think I enjoy the Miles Morales Spider-Man version a little bit more.
I mean, I won't say he grew on me. It was just like there's stuff I just learned about him. It's like, okay, yeah, he's a really cool character. I really like him. But it wasn't until like Donald Glover got back into like actually getting to voice him, and then just like, okay, actually I really do. And then finally getting to sit down and read his comic book. What made him really, really good to me. And then of course, Enter the Spider-Verse is a ridiculous movie. It is so good.
I agree.
Have you seen? You've seen it, right? I think.
Yeah, me and my girlfriend and my cousin and her friend went to go see it.
Okay.
But my all-time favorite comic book character has to be Gambit.
Gambit's cool.
Yeah, I really enjoy his design, especially when he gets the design to look more like a rogue.
Yes.
I really enjoy him. And then how we met, that's very simple.
D&D.
D&D, basically.
Yeah.
My friend Noah played D&D with Colin and our friend Cody. I guess for like a year and a half, 2 year maybe.
I think no, I think it was just the first year. Yeah, first year.
For like a year, and I had heard about it, and that sort of it sparked my interest again in D&D. So we would try and do like homebrew D&DS games without an actual player's handbook together, and then one day I was just like, hey, can you ask them if I can just come play with y'all? It was weird because like for the first year he was adamant. He was like, none of y'all are going to come play at my D&D.
What?
I don't think I ever told you that, but that's something he actually said. He was like, I don't want to mix the two groups. None of y'all are going to come play over there. Until I asked him, I was like, can I play? And he was like, I don't know. I'll have to ask Colin. And then there was he asked you, and we saw Facebook message each other. And then you just messaged me one day. You're like, oh yeah, by the way, Noah's come to pick you up. We're at Hot Topic. We want to meet you. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, okay. But there was like no warning to that. It was really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is I always say that if you listen to a lot of like Dungeons and Dragons horror stories, one of the biggest like alignment red flags is chaotic neutral. Like a lot of times that's the issue. We could get on like horror stories in another time, but it's funny because Jacob's character is chaotic neutral, and he hasn't been. Yes, he's been the instigator of shenanigans.
I am Will, but I am also Jacob.
That is true.
So he calls me Wilcub. So when he says Jacob, sometimes he's still referring to me.
So I'll just go with Wilcub. So Wilcub over here. But yeah, so so the fact is that he can, while his chaotic neutral character is the source of shenanigans, it is in-game enriching shenanigans that pushes the plot and not the like murder hobo game breaking disruptive kind of thing. in which that's one of the biggest things I did. Because I really don't mind alignment. I think, like, so it would take a certain person to play a chaotic or evil character, I feel, in a game. It just doesn't really make sense, in my opinion, because if they're all good, an evil person usually ends up just being a big bad. It's not impossible, but it's just kind of whatever. But yeah, so the fact that you're a chaotic neutral character and you're not being a contributor to the stereotype of murder hobo thingy. I mean, again, your character did have a bit of an arc where lightning breathing an NPC did cause her to come back.
Nah.
Which with a literal
That's Cave
vengeance.
Wife. She came back because she loved me.
Yeah. So maybe one show we'll just talk about the Chronicles of Nazir and Brielle.
Oh God.
And just get that out of the
I would like that. Maybe next week, because we are coming to a close. I think we should wrap this up. So I kind of what?
See if was there anyone else had any other questions? We'll just take one more if there is, and then we'll.
Okay. Is there any other questions? And we will do one more. So don't give me no lame questions.
What's your favorite Kool-Aid?
Get out of here. My favorite Kool-Aid is Oryx because he can burst through walls.
Nice.
Oryx is a siege character that bursts through walls like the Kool-Aid Man. Not sure if we're gonna get another question.
Oh.
The chat has died down.
Oh, boy. Sleepy baby.
It'd be like that sometimes. So
that's fine.
Maybe next week we will touch on more D&D character stuff longer. Maybe give a short summary of each character in each of our parties, kind of.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
And also we are going to be trying to get some guests, mainly from our D&D campaigns. And I kind of want, from the enthusiasm that I got from Cody, I kind of want Cody to be on first. That's just me.
Yep, that'd be fun.
So Cody, if you're still listening, maybe next Friday, same time as tonight, we might give you a call, but we'll talk about that more later.
Not this one. No, you're good. So there's not this one coming up.
Yeah, so not Friday, next Friday. So every Tuesday we will be streaming from 10:30 to 12 a.m. 10:30 p.m. to 12 a.m. Every other Friday, starting next Friday. Actually, I can do it better. Starting the 25th of September. Yeah. We will be trying to get a guest, and that will be its own session of the podcast, where the whole podcast is sort of, more or less, it's based around the guest.
Yes.
And not necessarily topics. Like, generic topics.
Yeah. If you have anything else?
Do you have anything else?
I am good. I hope everyone enjoyed it. First, our maiden voyage into podcasting.
Yes. I hope everyone enjoyed it. And then, of course, if you want to see or rewatch the podcast, eventually this will be uploaded to YouTube, probably within this week. And if you have friends that you think might be interested, please recommend it to them so we can get this podcast out there. And if you haven't hit the follow button, please do. And that's where we'll call it. So I am Wilcom.
And Khalid.
And this was the PiP Cast. See ya.